When we think of ancient Sparta, we picture brutal warriors, shields, and spears. But what if I told you that one of the most militaristic societies in human history was built on a foundation of institutionalized same-sex relationships? Today, we're diving deep into the complex world of Spartan homosexual relationships, exploring why they existed, how they worked, and what problems they caused in this warrior society. The question of Spartan homosexual relationships has fascinated historians for centuries, and recent scholarship continues to shed new light on this complex social system. Unlike the popular image of Sparta as a purely heterosexual warrior culture, the reality was far more nuanced and strategically designed. The Spartan system of male relationships, known as pederasty, was not merely tolerated but actively encouraged as a cornerstone of their military and social structure. The practice typically involved romantic relations and mentoring by adult men with male youths. And in communities like Sparta, these relationships were explicitly permitted and even institutionalized. This wasn't a secret or underground phenomenon, but rather an integral part of Spartan society that served multiple purposes within their rigid social hierarchy. The success of this system can be traced to several key factors that made it uniquely effective within Spartan culture. First and foremost, these relationships served as a powerful tool for military cohesion and training. The Spartan military viewed same-sex relationships among soldiers as a practical and integral part of the warrior culture, intended to foster strong bonds and enhance combat effectiveness. The older partner, known as the Erastes, would serve as a mentor, protector, and role model for the younger partner, the Eromenos, creating bonds that would last a lifetime and translate directly into battlefield loyalty. This mentorship system was brilliantly designed to address one of the fundamental challenges of military training: how to transform young men into disciplined warriors. According to some sources, the older man was expected to function as a kind of substitute father and role model to his junior partner. The emotional investment that the older warrior had in his younger protege created a powerful incentive for both parties to excel. The Erastes would be judged by the performance and character of his Eromenos, while the younger partner would be motivated by love, respect, and the desire not to disappoint his mentor. The psychological benefits of this system extended far beyond simple military training. In a society where young men were removed from their families at age 7 and thrust into the harsh world of the agoge, these relationships provided crucial emotional support and guidance. The bonds formed through these partnerships created a network of loyalty and mutual obligation that strengthened the entire Spartan military structure. Warriors would fight not just for Sparta, but for their beloved companions, creating a level of battlefield commitment that was legendary throughout the ancient world. Evidence for the success of this system can be found in Spartans' military achievements and the longevity of their power. For centuries, Spartan warriors were considered the finest soldiers in Greece, and their reputation alone was often enough to deter enemies. The sacred band of Thebes, an elite ancient Greek fighting force made up entirely of gay couples, actually defeated Sparta in later battles, demonstrating that the concept of using romantic bonds to enhance military effectiveness was not unique to Sparta, but was recognized as a viable military strategy throughout the Greek world. The social engineering aspect of Spartan homosexual relationships was remarkably sophisticated. By channeling the natural romantic and sexual impulses of young men into a structured system that served the state's military needs, Spartan leaders created a self-reinforcing cycle of loyalty and excellence. The relationships were not random or chaotic, but were carefully managed to ensure they contributed to the overall strength of Spartan society. However, this system was not without its problems and controversies, even within Spartan society itself. The exact nature of Spartan pederasty is not entirely clear, with some sources suggesting the relationships were primarily mentoring rather than sexual. This ambiguity has led to scholarly debate about the true nature of these relationships and whether they were fundamentally different from similar practices in other Greek city-states. One of the most significant sources of tension came from conflicting accounts by ancient historians. Xenophon, an admirer of the Spartan educational system whose sons attended the agoge, explicitly denies the sexual nature of the relationship. This denial by Xenophon, who was otherwise very supportive of Spartan practices, suggests that there may have been internal disagreement or shame about certain aspects of the system, even among its supporters. The implementation of this system also created practical problems within Spartan society. Managing the complex web of relationships, ensuring proper mentorship, and preventing the formation of inappropriate or harmful bonds required constant oversight and regulation. There were likely instances of abuse, favoritism, or relationships that failed to serve their intended purpose, though specific examples are rarely documented in surviving historical sources. Another significant challenge was the potential for these relationships to create internal conflicts within the military hierarchy. Jealousy, competition for particularly promising young warriors, or disputes over mentorship rights could potentially undermine unit cohesion. The strong emotional bonds that made the system effective in battle could also become sources of distraction or conflict when personal relationships interfered with military duties. The system also faced external criticism from other Greek city-states, particularly Athens, which had a more complex and sometimes contradictory approach to homosexual relationships. In places such as Athens, laws were put in place to eradicate what was slowly being regarded as an archaic, unnatural tradition. This external pressure may have contributed to internal tensions about the legitimacy and appropriateness of Spartan practices. Long-term demographic problems also emerged from the Spartan social system. One of the major problems of the later Spartan society was the steady decline in its fully enfranchised citizens, which also meant a decline in available military manpower. The number of Spartiates decreased from 6,000 in 640 BC to 1,000 in 330 BC. While this decline cannot be attributed solely to the homosexual relationship system, the complex social arrangements and the demanding nature of Spartan military life may have contributed to difficulties in maintaining
population growth and family stability. The success of the Spartan system also created its own problems through the development of what might be called institutional rigidity. The very effectiveness of their military culture made it difficult to adapt to changing circumstances or to incorporate new ideas and practices. This inflexibility eventually contributed to Sparta's decline as other Greek city-states developed more adaptable military and political systems. Despite these challenges, the Spartan model of institutionalized same-sex relationships remained remarkably stable for centuries, suggesting that whatever problems existed were either successfully managed or were outweighed by the benefits the system provided. The fact that other military cultures, such as the Sacred Band of Thebes, adopted similar practices indicates that the Spartan approach was not only successful but influential throughout the ancient world. The legacy of Spartan homosexual relationships extends far beyond their immediate military applications. They represent one of the most sophisticated examples of social engineering in the ancient world, demonstrating how cultural practices can be deliberately designed and implemented to serve specific societal goals. The system shows how human emotions and relationships can be channeled into institutional structures that enhance collective performance and social cohesion. Modern military organizations continue to grapple with many of the same challenges that the Spartans faced: how to build unit cohesion, develop effective leadership, and create bonds strong enough to sustain soldiers through the stresses of combat. While contemporary militaries use different methods, the fundamental insight that emotional bonds enhance military effectiveness remains as relevant today as it was in ancient Sparta. The study of Spartan relationships also provides valuable insights into the relationship between sexuality, social structure, and institutional power. The Spartan example demonstrates that sexual practices and romantic relationships are not separate from political and military considerations, but can be integral components of how societies organize themselves and achieve their goals. In conclusion, the Spartan system of institutionalized same-sex relationships was a remarkable example of social engineering that successfully served the military and political needs of their society for centuries. While it faced internal tensions and external criticisms, its longevity and influence demonstrate its effectiveness as a tool for building military cohesion and developing warrior culture. The system's problems were largely those of any complex social institution: the challenges of implementation, the potential for abuse, and the difficulty of adapting to changing circumstances. However, its overall success in creating one of the most formidable military cultures in human history suggests that these problems were manageable within the context of Spartan society and values. The story of Spartan relationships reminds us that human societies have always been creative in developing institutions that serve their needs, even when those institutions might seem unconventional or controversial by contemporary standards. As we continue to study and understand these ancient practices, we gain valuable insights into the complexity of human social organization and the many different ways that love, loyalty, and military effectiveness can be combined to create lasting and influential civilizations.